Before the sun clears the upper canopy, the forest already has a spine of sound running through it. It begins as a low vibration, almost subsonic, rolling across treetops in expanding pulses that seem to move the air itself. The source is not wind or thunder, but a troop of howler monkeys announcing their position from high branches. The call is less a shout than a resonant engine, amplified by an enlarged hyoid bone that functions as a biological sound chamber. In males especially, this specialized structure transforms breath into a roar that can carry for several kilometers. The call establishes territory, spacing between groups, and social cohesion within the troop. It is not random noise. It is infrastructure. When howlers vocalize, the forest absorbs and organizes around their presence. Other primates gauge distance and density by the cadence of the roar. Birds adjust flight paths to avoid contested canopy zones. Even terrestrial mammals, though not directly threatened by howlers, use the broadcast as a contextual cue. A loud, routine chorus implies stability overhead. The sound becomes a reference line against which subtler signals are measured. It is not a guarantee of safety, but it is a marker of normality. Routine has acoustic texture. The distinction between absence and interruption becomes critical here. Absence follows predictable cycles. Howlers are most vocal during dawn and dusk, when temperature gradients favor sound transmission and territorial reinforcement matters most. Midday quiet may simply indicate feeding or rest. Heavy rain dampens sound and reduces call frequency. These patterns are understood by the broader ecosystem through repetition. Interruption, however, is different. An interruption suggests a decision made in real time. It is the acoustic equivalent of a door closing mid-sentence. Imagine the call building in layered waves, overlapping individuals, reinforcing the group's acoustic footprint. Then, without tapering or scheduled decline, it stops. The silence is not gradual, it is abrupt. The canopy that moments ago vibrated with territorial assertion becomes still. The absence of continuation is itself a signal. The loudest reference point has vanished without completing its expected arc. Every species within earshot recalibrates. Howlers do not vocalize idly. Their energy budget is tightly linked to diet, which consists largely of leaves that are low in caloric density and require specialized digestion through enlarged hind guts. Conserving energy is essential. When they choose to project sound, they are investing metabolic resources into territorial clarity and social coordination. A sudden cutoff implies that another priority has overridden routine display. That priority may be the detection of movement in adjacent canopy, a scent carried upward by convection currents, or the shadow of a raptor gliding beyond peripheral vision. The canopy is not immune to predation. Harpy eagles patrol above, capable of lifting juvenile monkeys from branches with precision. Jaguars, though primarily terrestrial, can climb effectively and occasionally exploit low canopy movement near river edges. Pumas have been documented navigating trees when opportunity aligns. Even large boas ascend into branches where foliage creates ambush cover. Howlers maintain vigilance not only downward but outward and above. Their calls serve as both advertisement and assertion. Cutting them off mid-sequence shifts the troop from broadcast mode to surveillance mode. When that transition occurs, the acoustic architecture of the forest destabilizes. Smaller primates that use howler roars as spatial markers hesitate before resuming movement. Birds that had been calling in overlapping intervals pause, listening for confirmation that the silence is benign. Insects continue their mechanical pulses, but their sounds seem exposed without the low-frequency foundation. The jungle does not go quiet because every animal is frightened. It goes quiet because uncertainty spreads rapidly when the dominant signal disappears. There is a psychological dimension embedded in this ecological response. Systems rely on reference points. In open savannas, visibility offers reassurance. In dense rainforest, sound often substitutes for sight. The howler's roar functions as a kind of acoustic horizon line. Remove it abruptly and orientation falters. Species that normally divide attention between foraging and ambient monitoring redirect focus entirely toward detection. The recalibration is measurable in posture. Heads lift, movement slow, spacing between individuals increases. Physiologically, howlers are equipped for this dynamic shift. Their prehensile tails anchor them securely while scanning. Enlarged auditory bullae enhance low-frequency hearing, enabling detection of distant disturbances. The same anatomy that projects sound also tunes reception. When a troop ceases vocalization, it often repositions within the canopy, consolidating into tighter clusters or shifting to branches with broader visual corridors. This reconfiguration reduces vulnerability during uncertain intervals. Weather can complicate interpretation. Wind distorts directionality, rain dampens amplitude, and temperature inversions alter sound travel. Yet, interruption differs from environmental suppression. During a storm, calls diminish gradually or fail to initiate. In an interruption, momentum exists and then ceases. The difference lies in pattern disruption rather than volume reduction. Animals attuned to temporal rhythm detect this anomaly instinctively. The ripple effect extends beyond primates. Ground-dwelling mammals that time movements to coincide with canopy noise lose acoustic cover. A peccary herd may delay crossing an exposed gap until the roar resumes. Arboreal rodents freeze along branches, minimizing rustle that might attract aerial predators. Even ant-following birds, accustomed to interpreting multiple signals simultaneously, adjust perches to gain clearer sightlines. The system shifts from distributed chatter to concentrated listening. There is irony in how a species known for volume exerts influence through silence. Howlers do not defend territory by constant noise, but by strategic projection. Their calls prevent unnecessary physical conflict between groups, conserving energy and reducing injury. When a call stops abruptly, the absence carries weight precisely because sound is normally so abundant. The broadcast cutoff transforms familiarity into question. In evolutionary terms, this dynamic underscores the importance of reliable signaling. If howlers frequently interrupted calls without cause, other species would learn to ignore the anomaly. The value of interruption depends on its rarity. Consistency builds credibility. Thus, the troop's decision to cease mid-sequence must correspond to meaningful stimulus. The jungle's rapid recalculation reflects accumulated trust in that acoustic integrity. Standing beneath such a canopy, the shift feels visceral. A moment earlier, vibration pressed against the chest cavity, reverberating through leaves. Now, air hangs unmodulated. The absence sharpens peripheral awareness. Subtle sounds, a twig settling, a wing adjusting position, acquire amplified significance. It is not fear that dominates, but recalculation. The loudest signal has withdrawn, and the system reorganizes around its loss. When the roar resumes, it does so deliberately, often after several minutes of quiet assessment. The return restores reference, allowing other species to ease back into social rhythm. Movement spreads again through understory and canopy. The interruption becomes memory, folded into the forest's ongoing calculus of risk. The broadcast cutoff reveals how sound functions as structural support in dense ecosystems. Remove that support unexpectedly, and uncertainty propagates. Howler monkeys, through anatomy and behavior, anchor the acoustic landscape. Their silence is not emptiness, but a pivot point, a moment when the jungle transitions from routine to scrutiny. In that pivot lies a deeper truth. Survival in the Amazon depends as much on interpreting interruption as on enduring presence. The first sign is not noise, but motion that does not belong to the wind. Leaf litter trembles in thin advancing seams. A beetle erupts upward from beneath a rotting frond and collides clumsily with a vine before vanishing into higher foliage. A spider abandons a silk retreat it has reinforced for days. Small lizards that normally move in measured intervals dart without rhythm, then freeze again as if reconsidering their escape. The baseline hum of the forest floor, soft clicks, dry scrapes, and the faint percussion of insects at work shifts its pattern. Nothing dramatic has announced danger. There is no roar, no shadow sweeping overhead. The ground itself is becoming unstable. An army ant raid has begun. In the Amazon, colonies of army ants operate not as static settlements, but as mobile superorganisms. Species such as Ecceton burchelli organize into living columns that surge forward in coordinated waves, driven by chemical signals laid down as pheromone trails. Individual ants are small, nearly anonymous in isolation, yet collectively they form a predatory front capable of overwhelming prey many times their size. Their bodies are built for this purpose: elongated mandibles designed to grip, exoskeletons hardened for combat, and a social structure in which sterile workers sacrifice individual survival for colony efficiency. The queen remains protected within a temporary bivouac formed from the interlocked bodies of workers, a living shelter that relocates as the raid advances. The colony itself is both engine and architecture. As the wave progresses, it converts stable ground into a corridor of forced decisions. Insects that depend on camouflage lose advantage when the substrate beneath them moves. Stick insects and leaf-mimicking katydids cannot disguise themselves against a shifting carpet of predators. Many flee upward, climbing stems and trunks to escape contact. Others attempt immobility, banking on the hope that stillness will deflect detection. Army ants rely primarily on tactile and chemical cues. Contact often seals fate. Prey that fails to move quickly enough becomes disassembled and carried away in fragments, redistributed as protein within the colony's expanding metabolism. The silence that follows this eruption is deceptive. It resembles predator quiet, but its origin differs. The usual singers of the understory, crickets, cicadas, and small orthopterans, have either been flushed from their positions or suppressed by immediate threat. The soundscape thins not because an apex hunter has entered, but because the ground-level community has been displaced. The forest seems to hold its breath in localized patches where the wave passes, creating a moving pocket of acoustic vacancy. Yet this disturbance does not function in isolation. Army ant raids trigger one of the Amazon's most intricate symbiotic phenomena: ant-following birds. Certain species, including antbirds and woodcreepers, shadow the advancing front, positioning themselves at the edges where fleeing insects become exposed. These birds do not consume the ants themselves, they exploit the chaos generated by the swarm. Their presence adds a second tier of predation layered above the ants' movement. The forest, in effect, becomes stratified into a vertical hunt. Ants below, birds above, prey caught between. This creates a paradoxical silence. As birds reposition to intercept flushed insects, other animals go still to avoid drawing attention. A sudden dash from cover might evade ants, but expose the mover to avian hunters scanning from perches. Small mammals and reptiles often freeze rather than flee, calculating that immobility reduces detection probability from multiple directions. The result is a temporary quiet that mimics the presence of a large predator, even though the driving force is a mass of invertebrates. The ecological implications of this evacuation wave extend beyond immediate mortality. Army ants do not forage continuously in the same area. Their raids are cyclical, moving across territories in patterns influenced by resource availability and colony phase. This mobility prevents permanent depletion of prey populations, allowing recovery between incursions. In evolutionary terms, prey species have adapted to periodic displacement. Some insects possess heightened sensitivity to ground vibrations, enabling earlier detection of advancing columns. Others synchronize reproductive cycles to minimize vulnerability during peak raid seasons. The ant's aggression thus shapes life histories across taxa. Thermoregulation plays a subtle role in raid timing. Army ants are sensitive to temperature and humidity, often advancing during cooler parts of the day when desiccation risk is reduced. The microclimate of the forest floor, shaded, humid, buffered by leaf litter, supports their activity. As climate conditions shift even slightly, raid intensity and direction may change, altering which microhabitats are temporarily rendered hazardous. This dynamic illustrates how physical environment interacts with collective behavior to determine ecological pressure. The evacuation wave also influences nutrient cycling. By fragmenting prey and transporting organic matter into bivouac zones, ants redistribute energy through the forest floor. Their discarded remains and waste products enrich soil in concentrated patches, promoting localized plant growth. In this sense, the swarm's passage is both destructive and generative. The silence left behind is not emptiness, but transition, a reset of spatial occupation. Rare behaviors emerge under this pressure. Certain spiders have been observed following ant columns at safe distances, capturing insects that escape initial contact. Some butterflies engage in rapid upward spirals, lifting above the vertical reach of birds before settling elsewhere. Even frogs, usually anchored to specific moisture zones, may relocate temporarily to avoid contact with the advancing front. The swarm forces improvisation, revealing flexibility embedded within otherwise routine patterns. From a systems perspective, the jungle during an army ant raid demonstrates how aggression at one trophic level reorganizes the next minute of existence for countless organisms. It is not a single predator dominating through strength, but a distributed force reshaping spatial boundaries. Where ants pass, territories dissolve. Microhabitats become untenable. The forest floor becomes a conveyor belt of urgency. Standing within such a scene, the observer notices that silence arrives in patches rather than waves. One section of understory falls quiet, while another, beyond the front, continues its ordinary hum. The The moving boundary between these zones is visible in motion before it is audible. Leaves shiver. Ant bodies glint faintly in filtered light. Birds shift from branch to branch in anticipation. The acoustic landscape fragments, mirroring the fragmentation of habitat at ground level. There is a measured irony in how such small organisms command such large responses. No individual ant understands the architecture of the forest, yet collectively they dictate temporary evacuation for creatures far larger than themselves. The jungle does not resist, it adapts moment by moment. Life compresses upward, sideways or inward, waiting for the column to pass. When it does, insects resettle, reptiles reclaim positions, and the baseline rustle and chirp gradually returns. The silence dissolves, replaced by cautious reoccupation. In this choreography, the army ant raid becomes more than predation. It is a living front line that redraws boundaries in real time, demonstrating that ecological power is not solely measured in size or singular force. The evacuation wave reveals the forest as a fluid system in which dominance can be temporary yet transformative. For a brief interval, the ground belongs to the swarm, and every other life form negotiates space around it. The quiet that lingers is the echo of displacement, a reminder that in the Amazon, danger sometimes arrives not as a shadow from above, but as a tide from below. In the Amazon, sound is never random. It is a running assessment of risk. At first light, the forest broadcasts confidence, tinamous whistle from shadowed ground, macaws cross the canopy in loud pairs, and small mammals rustle through leaf litter with the unguarded rhythm of routine. Every note and movement signals that, for this moment, survival probabilities are acceptable. Then, something shifts. Not dramatically, not all at once, but measurably. A pattern breaks. A repetition falters. The system recalibrates. Somewhere within the green density, a jaguar has entered the radius. The forest does not fall silent out of fear in the human sense. It reorganizes because predictability becomes dangerous. Jaguars are ambush specialists built for controlled force rather than prolonged pursuit. Their bodies are compact and muscular, shoulders dense with fast twitch fibers capable of explosive acceleration over short distances. Broad, padded paws distribute weight with minimal sound, and retractable claws remain sheathed until the final strike. Unlike predators that exhaust prey in open chases, the jaguar hunts by geometry and timing. It studies routes, narrow game trails, riverbank crossings, habitual feeding sites, waiting for repetition to betray opportunity. That reliance on pattern recognition alters prey behavior at multiple levels. Birds, for example, use repetitive calls to defend territories and maintain pair bonds in visually obstructed environments. These vocal loops are efficient under normal conditions, but repetition also reveals position and rhythm. When predator pressure increases, calling frequency declines or becomes irregular. Individuals shorten phrases, reduce amplitude, or shift perch height. These changes are subtle, but they reduce acoustic predictability. Over evolutionary time, individuals that modulated vocal behavior in response to predator cues were more likely to survive, embedding caution into neural response patterns. On the forest floor, small mammals modify their foraging strategies. Leaf litter is acoustically revealing. A steady crunch pattern can be mapped. Jaguars do not rely solely on sight. They integrate sound, scent, and movement irregularities. When agoutis or spiny rats detect indirect signals, such as abrupt silence in birds or unusual scent traces, they fragment their activity into shorter bursts, pausing more frequently. Freezing becomes as important as fleeing. The metabolic cost is real. Interrupted feeding reduces caloric efficiency, potentially influencing reproductive timing and juvenile growth rates. Predator presence therefore shapes not only mortality but energy allocation across populations. Much of this response is driven by micro-cues that humans rarely notice. A jaguar moving through understory compresses soil and disturbs leaf litter differently than lighter animals. Crushed vegetation releases volatile compounds that shift the air's chemical profile. Ungulates with sensitive olfactory systems detect these faint changes and adjust direction. When a brocket deer veers from a familiar path, birds that track ungulate movement as a proxy for safety alter their own behavior. Silence cascades outward through these interactions. The jaguar does not need to vocalize or reveal itself. Its passage is encoded in small deviations. Scent marking intensifies this invisible field. Jaguars deposit urine and glandular secretions to establish territory and reproductive status. These chemical markers persist, diffusing through humid air in irregular plumes shaped by temperature gradients. As sunlight warms upper canopy layers before the understory, convection currents shift scent vertically and laterally. Prey animals sample these gradients constantly, lifting their heads to test the air. Even without direct contact, detection of predator scent modifies route choice, feeding duration, and group cohesion. The forest becomes a chemical map layered over physical terrain. Absence itself becomes a signal. Many species monitor the calling behavior of others to gauge safety. When canopy birds abruptly cease routine chatter, arboreal mammals interpret the silence as potential danger. This cross-species monitoring creates a distributed alarm network without centralized coordination. A jaguar's approach initiates a ripple effect. One species reduces noise, another notices and pauses, and the pattern propagates through layers of vegetation. What appears to be sudden quiet is actually a network recalculating exposure risk. The jaguar's killing technique reinforces this controlled dynamic. With one of the strongest bite forces among big cats relative to body size, it often delivers a precise cranial bite that penetrates skull bone, minimizing prolonged struggle. A swift kill reduces acoustic disturbance, preventing extended alarm calls that could educate other prey. Efficiency limits noise, which preserves future hunting advantage. In evolutionary terms, reduced spectacle benefits the predator's long-term success. Water expands this pressure field. Jaguars are unusually comfortable swimmers and frequently patrol riverbanks and flooded forests. Their willingness to enter water reshapes risk for species that might otherwise treat aquatic zones as refuge. Capybaras adjust basking times and cluster near deeper channels. Juvenile caimans shift toward denser vegetation. Shorebirds alter landing positions. The predator's adaptability blurs boundaries between terrestrial and aquatic ecosystems, extending its behavioral influence beyond a single habitat type. Temporal patterns also matter. Jaguars are most active during dawn and dusk, when light conditions reduce visual contrast. Prey species track these rhythms, modifying movement accordingly. Yet unpredictability remains a strategic advantage. An individual that hunts outside expected windows can exploit routines embedded in prey circadian cycles. The evolutionary contest is dynamic. Prey refine temporal avoidance, while predators occasionally disrupt assumptions to reset equilibrium. The consequences of this predator pressure extend beyond immediate survival. By influencing herbivore movement and density, jaguars indirectly regulate vegetation patterns. Reduced grazing in high-risk areas allows saplings to mature, maintaining understory complexity. Structural diversity supports insects, amphibians, and birds. Fear, in ecological terms, can function as a stabilizing force. The jaguar's presence distributes grazing pressure across the landscape, preventing localized overuse and sustaining biodiversity. Standing within this environment, the shift becomes perceptible. The air feels thicker, not because it changes chemically in a way humans can detect easily, but because motion patterns compress. Birdsong fragments. Insect pulses seem less synchronized. Small mammals pause longer between steps. Nothing dramatic announces the predator, yet the cumulative alteration is unmistakable. The jungle has not gone silent. It has become conservative. The jaguar governs through probability rather than display. It does not need to roar to exert control. Its authority is statistical, embedded in countless risk calculations occurring simultaneously across species. Every creature weighs hunger against hazard, reproduction against exposure. The predator's influence is measured not only in kills but in modified behaviors, shortened feeding bouts, altered travel routes, suppressed vocal patterns. Over seasons, these micro-adjustments accumulate into landscape-scale effects. The concept of a predator pressure field captures this reality, a zone in which the mere possibility of encounter reshapes behavior. The jaguar may remain unseen, concealed by vines and filtered light, yet its presence is legible in disciplined quiet and redirected motion. Evolution has refined both hunter and hunted into participants of a complex equilibrium. In that recalibrated stillness, the forest reveals a deeper truth. Silence is not emptiness, but strategy. In the Amazon, not every silence carries teeth behind it. Sometimes the quiet arrives not from shadow or scent, but from pressure. Atmospheric pressure dropping by fractions of a millibar, humidity shifting by degrees, wind sliding through canopy layers at a new angle. Long before rain strikes leaf or thunder fractures the sky, the forest begins adjusting to physics. The most sensitive barometers are small, luminous, and easily overlooked. Poison dart frogs. On the forest floor and along low trunks, these frogs occupy a thin boundary between water and air. Their skin is permeable, designed not as armor, but as interface. Oxygen diffuses through moist surfaces. Water moves in and out according to gradients in humidity and temperature. This permeability is a vulnerability and a gift. It allows exquisite sensitivity to environmental change, but it also demands precision. A slight drop in humidity can increase evaporative water loss. A rise in temperature accelerates metabolism. A shift in pressure often precedes rainfall and alters the way sound travels. For a frog whose calling behavior is tied to hydration and mating opportunity, microclimate is not background. It is directive. During stable conditions, male poison dart frogs position themselves in territories marked not by scent, but by acoustic repetition. Their calls are short, sharp pulses that cut through the understory's layered hum. Each call serves as both advertisement and boundary marker, signaling readiness to breed and occupancy of a microhabitat that offers suitable leaf axils or bromeliad pools for tadpole development. Unlike many amphibians that rely on open water, many dendrobatids deposit eggs in moist leaf litter and later transport hatched tadpoles on their backs to small isolated water reservoirs. Reproductive timing must align with moisture availability. Too dry and eggs desiccate. Too wet and fungal growth increases mortality. Calling is therefore a calculated investment. As a storm edge approaches, the shift begins subtly. Barometric pressure drops. Wind direction alters the pattern of canopy movement. The air thickens, carrying different scents and refracting sound differently. Insects that rely on stable flight paths adjust altitude or retreat under cover. The frog's world contracts inward. Evaporation rates change as humidity spikes or dips unpredictably. Calling requires muscular effort and exposure. A calling male reveals position to predators such as snakes or birds, attuned to repetitive sound. When conditions destabilize, the calculus changes. Many frogs cease calling abruptly, retreating into crevices or beneath leaves where microclimate remains buffered. This is not fear in the dramatic sense, but physiological prudence. Amphibians regulate body temperature largely through environmental contact rather than internal generation. Sudden wind can cool exposed skin, altering metabolic rate. Heavy rainfall can saturate leaf litter, flooding egg sites or diluting chemical cues used for territory recognition. The frog's silence is often a preemptive adjustment to anticipated instability. The forest feels as if it has powered down, but the shift is strategic. The effect cascades outward. Insects that serve as prey for frogs respond to pressure changes with their own behavioral modifications. Some increase activity before rain, others reduce flight to conserve energy. Birds that feed on both insects and small amphibians alter perches as wind strengthens. The acoustic baseline, usually a dense layering of chirps, trills and pulses, thins unevenly. The absence of frog calls removes a high-frequency anchor from the understory, and other sounds appear isolated without that rhythmic scaffold. It can feel similar to predator silence, yet its origin lies in physics rather than pursuit. Poison dart frogs add another layer of ecological complexity through their chemical defenses. Alkaloid toxins in their skin derive from dietary sources, primarily ants and mites. The frogs sequester these compounds, repurposing them as deterrents against predators. Bright coloration advertises toxicity in a strategy known as aposematism. However, toxin production does not render them invulnerable. Certain snakes exhibit resistance, and naive predators may still attempt attacks. Calling behavior thus remains a balance between attracting mates and avoiding detection. Under unstable weather, when scent dispersal and sound propagation behave unpredictably, the cost of advertisement rises. The microclimate switch also influences reproductive choreography. In some species, males call more intensely just before rainfall, exploiting increased humidity that reduces desiccation risk during extended vocalization. In others, calling pauses entirely until rain stabilizes conditions, preventing egg-laying in sites that may soon flood. These species-specific responses underscore the precision of environmental tuning. Silence can signal imminent opportunity or delayed investment, depending on context. Observers standing in the forest as a storm approaches often interpret the quiet as ominous. Yet understanding the mechanics transforms that perception. Sound transmission changes with temperature and moisture. Low-frequency calls may carry farther, while higher frequencies scatter. Animals that rely on acoustic communication adjust accordingly. A reduction in calling may conserve energy when sound would not travel effectively. The jungle is not anticipating drama. It is recalibrating efficiency. There is subtle irony in how such small creatures embody atmospheric intelligence. Poison dart frogs, no larger than a human thumb, respond to pressure gradients invisible to human senses. Their silence can precede rainfall by minutes, sometimes longer. In that pause, the forest shifts posture. Leaves angle differently under wind. Ant columns alter routes to avoid flooding. Arboreal mammals seek denser cover. The amphibian's withdrawal becomes part of a broader environmental pivot. The dual warning embedded in this silence, predator or weather, reveals the importance of interpretation. For prey species, both threats modify movement and visibility. Rain reduces scent dispersion but increases noise, potentially masking predator approach. Wind obscures subtle auditory cues but may also carry chemical signals farther. By ceasing calls, frogs reduce exposure during periods when detection reliability is compromised. The system adjusts to preserve accuracy. As the first droplets strike, the soundscape rebuilds. Rain creates its own percussion, saturating leaves and soil. Some frogs resume calling within the storm, exploiting high humidity to sustain prolonged vocal effort. Others wait until rainfall stabilizes into steady patterns. The earlier silence becomes retrospect, understood as preparation rather than absence. Within this microclimate switch lies a lesson about reading the Amazon intelligently. Not every quiet interval signals a predator's shadow. Sometimes it signals a pressure front, reshaping visibility, hydration, and acoustic physics. The frog's sensitivity anchors credibility in this understanding. They are living instruments tuned to gradients of moisture and air, their behavior revealing environmental change before it becomes visible. Standing in that suspended moment before rain, when frogs fall silent and insects shift rhythm, the forest does not feel empty. It feels attentive. Physics, not fear, governs the recalibration. The jungle has not powered down. It has shifted mode, conserving energy and minimizing exposure in anticipation of altered conditions. In recognizing this, the silence transforms from mystery into mechanism, deepening respect for the subtle interplay between climate and life that defines the Amazon's resilience. Mid-morning light filters across a mosaic of terrain where forest loosens into scrub and rises toward broken ridges. This is transitional country, edges braided together by game trails, dry stream beds, and wind-shaped clearings. Sound here behaves differently than in the deep riverine forest. Calls travel farther. Hoofbeats carry. Parrots cross open air with wing noise that can be mapped by any attentive ear. Animals move through these spaces with a certain social confidence because the landscape feels legible. They expect risk along predictable lines, dense thickets, blind curves near water, shadowed gullies. What unsettles them is not danger itself, but danger in the wrong place. That is where the puma enters the equation. Unlike river-bound predators that concentrate along aquatic corridors, the puma is a generalist of terrain and timing. Long-limbed, with a flexible spine and powerful hindquarters designed for vertical thrust, it navigates slopes and escarpments with an efficiency that appears effortless. Its tail acts as a dynamic counterbalance during sudden turns, allowing tight adjustments in uneven ground. This physiology translates into ecological reach. Pumas move across ridges, skirt agricultural edges, traverse mixed woodland, and use dry channels as highways. They are not confined to the obvious ambush geometry of riverbanks. They operate where prey assumes motion is safe. The forest's reaction to a puma is less about immediate fear and more about recalibration. Prey animals shift from social broadcasting into assessment mode. In social mode, calls maintain cohesion and advertise territory. In red mode, noise becomes liability. The transition can be abrupt. A troop of monkeys crossing canopy gaps may suddenly shorten their vocal exchanges, not because they have seen a predator, but because subtle irregularities have altered the acoustic landscape. A bird alarm call from an unusual direction, a pause in habitual ungulate movement, or even a faint scent trace carried down slope can trigger the shift. Silence emerges not as panic, but as strategy. This response is rooted in the puma's hunting style. It does not charge through undergrowth or create splash signatures at water crossings. It advances incrementally, often pausing for extended observation. Studies of puma movement patterns reveal long periods of stillness punctuated by short, decisive advances. That stillness is critical. When a predator reduces its own acoustic output, prey must reduce theirs to detect it. The forest enters a listening contest in which both sides are minimizing signal and maximizing reception. The advantage favors the animal that requires only one precise opportunity. Scent plays a subtler role than in territorial river predators. Pumas do mark, scraping soil and depositing scent at strategic points, but they rely heavily on stealth rather than overt chemical declaration. In warm conditions, thermoregulation shapes activity windows. With a relatively thin coat compared to some cold climate felids, pumas avoid overheating by hunting during cooler hours or utilizing shaded slopes. These microclimatic choices intersect with prey behavior. Ungulates may prefer open grazing in early morning light for visibility, yet shaded ridgelines can conceal a predator whose body temperature remains stable in reduced sun exposure. The predator's physiological limits influence the timing of pressure. Consider a herd of deer navigating a well-worn trail along a contour line. Trails are efficient because they minimize energy expenditure, but they also create predictability. A puma exploiting elevation can position itself above such routes, leveraging gravity for acceleration. The initial leap is often downhill, converting potential energy into momentum. In this geometry, even a brief lapse in vigilance is costly. Prey, aware of this possibility, alter spacing, increasing distance between individuals to reduce collective vulnerability. However, wider spacing weakens group detection capacity. The puma benefits from this tension between cohesion and dispersion. The unfamiliar hunter effect intensifies when the predator appears outside expected habitat zones. In ecosystems shared with larger competitors, prey may categorize risk spatially. If a dominant predator is associated with river edges, animals adjust vigilance accordingly. When a puma patrols upland or transitional terrain where prey typically relax, the psychological disruption is greater. Vocal animals stop not only to avoid advertisement, but to re-establish orientation. Direction, distance, and intent must be recalculated without auditory clutter. The forest quiets because listening becomes survival. Rare behaviors surface under this pressure. Some birds engage in sentinel shifts, where individuals take elevated perches and reduce feeding to monitor ground movement. Ungulates may perform stotting or exaggerated leaps, not as escape, but as signals of alertness, communicating to a concealed predator that it has been detected. Detection often ends a puma's attempt. Ambush success declines sharply once prey awareness rises. Therefore, the predator invests heavily in remaining undetected until the final seconds. Its coat coloration, uniform tawny with subtle shading, blends across varied substrates from dry grass to leaf litter. Camouflage here is not pattern complexity, but chromatic moderation, effective across habitats. The puma's diet breadth reinforces unpredictability. It can target small mammals, medium ungulates, and occasionally larger prey, adjusting tactics accordingly. This flexibility means that no single species can rely on specialization gaps for safety. Even arboreal escape is not guaranteed. Pumas are capable climbers and have been documented ambushing prey in low branches. Such versatility forces prey into constant reassessment. Energy that could be devoted to growth or reproduction is diverted toward vigilance. Over time, these energetic trade-offs influence population structure and reproductive timing. Interestingly, the puma's impact extends into scavenger networks. After a successful kill, it often caches remains under vegetation or soil to return later. This behavior delays access for scavengers but creates predictable nutrient hotspots. Vultures circling above can indirectly signal predator presence, altering prey movement even before the puma returns. Thus, the predator's influence radiates beyond the moment of attack into broader ecological interactions. There is a measured restraint in how the puma operates. It does not dominate through spectacle but through ambiguity. It appears where terrain suggests safety, moves where sound carries farthest, and waits in places prey associates with transit rather than ambush. The unfamiliarity destabilizes assumptions. When prey cannot map risk to a specific feature, the entire environment becomes provisional. Social chatter declines. Foraging slows. Heads lift more frequently. The forest seems quieter not because life has stopped, but because information exchange has shifted from broadcasting to scanning. From within this recalibrated landscape, the change is palpable. A breeze passes through dry leaves without being masked by bird calls. Hooves place more carefully on hardened soil. Even insects seem momentarily unsynchronized. The puma may be crouched on a ridge, muscles coiled yet motionless, its breathing shallow and controlled. It gives nothing away. No splash, no charge, no audible preparation, only a narrowing of probability. In evolutionary terms, the unfamiliar hunter effect underscores the advantage of ecological flexibility. By refusing confinement to a single habitat archetype, the puma disrupts spatial expectations embedded in prey behavior. Silence becomes adaptive hesitation, a collective pause to reevaluate the invisible map. The predator's power lies not merely in strength or speed, but in its capacity to alter cognitive landscapes. In that suspended quiet, the forest is not empty, it is calculating. At the edge of an Amazonian river, sound behaves differently. The forest presses close, but the bank opens into a narrow strip of exposed earth where every step is visible, every pause amplified by reflection. Water flattens noise into surface geometry. A falling seed leaves rings that expand with mathematical precision. A wading hoof produces turbulence that lingers in suspended silt. Even wind becomes legible in the faint corrugation of current. The riverbank is not merely a place to drink, it is a threshold where physics and biology converge. It is also where predictability hardens into vulnerability. Animals approach water along habitual paths carved by repetition. Hooves and paws compress mud into ramps, creating gentle slopes that funnel bodies into similar angles and head positions. Drinking requires posture, neck extended, gaze lowered, attention divided between hydration and surveillance. That posture is a compromise shaped by necessity. The riverbank concentrates species that might otherwise remain dispersed. Capybaras gather in loose clusters, deer step cautiously from cover, birds descend in staggered intervals to test depth. Each arrival is preceded by hesitation, a step, a pause, a subtle tilt of the head. This is not indecision, but evaluation. At the waterline, silence is a negotiation. Within that negotiation lies the advantage of the caiman. Built low and armored, with eyes and nostrils positioned atop the skull, it occupies a vertical niche that minimizes exposure. Only a thin band of bone and scale needs to break the surface to gather visual and olfactory information. The rest of the body remains submerged, insulated by water that conceals mass and direction. Caimans regulate body temperature behaviorally, basking on banks to absorb heat and sliding back into cooler channels when internal temperatures rise. This thermoregulatory rhythm often coincides with peak prey visitation times. Warm mornings draw both reptile and mammal toward the same margin, though for very different reasons. Still, water is not absence of movement. It is an information grid. Ripples reveal size and speed. A V-shaped disturbance betrays direction. Prey reading the surface learns to distinguish wind-driven texture from purposeful displacement. A floating branch that holds too steady against current invites scrutiny. Birds hesitate before landing, sometimes circling once more than necessary, as if measuring subtle asymmetries. The moment the jungle quiets along a riverbank, it is often because multiple species are reading the same ambiguous signal. Caimans exploit this shared caution. They rely on stealth rather than pursuit, positioning themselves along predictable approach routes where banks narrow or vegetation creates blind curves. Unlike mammals that may betray presence through footfall, the caiman's aquatic entry leaves minimal disturbance when executed slowly. Muscular tails propel the body in controlled increments. The animal can remain nearly motionless for extended periods, heart rate reduced, energy conserved. This physiological economy supports patience. An ambush predator benefits from letting thirst, hunger, and routine compress prey into narrow margins of error. The waterline becomes a funnel not only for drinking animals, but for predators that understand edge effects. Jaguars patrol certain banks. Pumas may skirt upland tributaries. Yet the caiman is the specialist of the interface itself. Its sensory systems are tuned for aquatic detection. Pressure-sensitive integumentary organs embedded in the skin detect minute vibrations, allowing the reptile to interpret surface disturbance even in low visibility. In turbid conditions where sight is limited, these receptors function as an extension of the nervous system into surrounding water. Panic splashes transmit urgency. Steady ripples suggest caution. Information travels faster across water than through dense undergrowth. Prey species respond with coordinated restraint. Capybaras rarely rush to drink alone. They stagger entry, one individual stepping forward while others remain elevated and alert. Deer lower their heads briefly, then lift abruptly to scan margins. Even birds adjust spacing, landing slightly farther from overhanging roots that conceal submerged forms. The reduction of noise along the bank is a collective risk strategy. Loud splashing does more than announce presence to a caiman. It may